What's up, welcome back to Nostalgia. Dave here with my reaction to Spotify Wrapped 2024. I'm going to talk about the global United States data that Spotify shared, as well as my own personal list, my general thoughts about Wrapped every year. A lot to get into. Let's jump in. Overall, I'd say I'm pro Spotify Wrapped. I am pro listening data being shared. Frankly, I would pay more to have more data insight into this. And of course, I know there are other tracking services that you can link to Spotify or use instead and whatnot. There's things out there for sure to track your consumption, but I just find it so fascinating. I'm a letterbox user. I keep lists on my Google Drive. I like to keep data and just looking at the data, understanding what I did in a given year. In this case, with music, I find very interesting. Obviously, that's not for everyone, but with Spotify Wrapped, I'll get into my stuff later. But the global information is always fascinating for what it does and doesn't tell us. Globally, for the top 10 artists, it's a lot of familiar faces, nothing too surprising here. Number 10 is Colombian singer Feed, which I wasn't expecting. Number 9, Ariana Grande. Number 8, Kanye West. Number 7, Peso Pluma. Number 6, Travis Scott. Number 5, Billie Eilish. Number 4, Drake. Number 3, Bad Bunny. Number 2, The Weeknd. And number 1, unsurprisingly, Taylor Swift. So if you think about that list, almost everyone on that list released a new album in 2024, which is a big part of making a list like that. Now, in that top 10 globally, the artists who did not release new albums this year are Travis Scott, Drake, Bad Bunny, and The Weeknd. Travis, I think it's quite impressive that he's here without new music. Really speaks to just how massive he is. You think about the shows he does in Europe and how big and crazy they look. The guy is massive. Drake here without an album, not surprising. He's done that before, even though there's not that many times where he doesn't have an album out this year. A nice reminder that despite everything that happened with Kendrick this year, Drake is still an institution, as is, of course, The Weeknd, who was the number one most listened to artist on Spotify in terms of the monthly listeners metric for almost the entirety of the year before finally getting knocked off for Bruno Mars. Of course, that's a metric that measures reach, speaks to playlist exposure and whatnot. It's not actual total consumption, hence why Taylor is still number one. Important to keep that in mind. Overall, though, I think it makes a lot of sense here. The Ariana album, despite not being her most popular album by any means, is still a massive deal. Kanye releasing 2 albums of up and down quality, to say the least. Check my reviews, but he's got a big footprint, especially globally still. In terms of songs, top 10 globally, this is pretty similar to the US stats, not entirely though. 10, Die With a Smile, that's the Bruno Lady Gaga duet. Number 9, Taylor's Cruel Summer. Of course, that's a catalog hit, being in the top 10 globally on Spotify. It's pretty impressive. Number 8 is One of the Girls. That's the Weeknd, Jenny, Lily Rose Depp song from The Idol. Of course, that's a song that came out last year, then blew up to such a crazy degree this year. I did not realize it was going to be in the top 10, though. Kind of fascinating. Number 7 is Too Sweet by Hozier. Number 6 is End of Beginning by Geo, the Joe Keery song that, of course, blew up on TikTok again last year and then really stuck around. Number 5, Lose Control by Teddy Swims. Number 4 is Gata Only by Floyd Manor. Number 3, Birds of a Feather by Billy. Number 2, Beautiful Things by Benson Boone. Did not expect that to this degree, especially in the global stats. Number 1, Sabrina Carpenter's Espresso. Nothing too crazy there, I guess, besides just the general surprises. Like, I didn't know Beautiful Things was that big. I knew it was big. I didn't realize Cruel Summer and End of Beginning were around like that. Cruel Summer just seems to be potentially, I don't know, it's a big gap, but I think there's a chance Cruel Summer could, really rise up the global all-time Spotify lists, which I believe is still Blinding Lights and Shape of You at the top. There's a chance Cruel Summer could eventually get there. Of course, there's billions of streams to go. We'll see. Top 10 albums globally, again, pretty similar here. Number 10 is The Weeknd's Starboy, again, just catalog behemoth. Number 9 is Fireworks and Rollerblades by Benson Boone. Number 8 is Taylor Swift's Lover, again, catalog. Number 7 is SZA's SOS, which came out at the end of 2022, impressive. Number 6 is 1989 Taylor's version. Number 5 is Ariana's Eternal Sunshine. Number 4 is Mañana Será Bonito by Karol G, impressive. That's the biggest Latin album of the year. And then number 3, Short and Sweet by Sabrina. Number 2, Hit Me Hard and Soft by Billy at number 2. And of course, number 1, Torture Poets Apartment by Taylor. Uh, Also, I thought globally, just quick note, they had the audiobook stats. I just wanted to shout out The Fellowship of the Ring was the number 2 audiobook on Spotify Premium. And number 8 was A Game of Thrones, the first book in A Song of Ice and Fire. Thought that was cool. Looking at the US stats, it's a little bit different, but I think the big thing here with the artists is, of course, the presence of country, which shouldn't be a huge shock. Number 10 was Metro Boomin. I did not really expect him to make it all the way here off the strength of the albums with Future in the beginning of the year, but he did. Number 9 was The Weeknd, despite not having any new music this year. Number 8, Travis, the same. 7 is Kendrick. 6 is Future. 5 is Kanye. 4 is Morgan Wallen, and 3 is Zach Bryan. Again, the 2 country behemoths in the U.S. And then number 2 is Drake. Number 1 was Taylor. I think the takeaways there, of course, besides the catalog stuff, Drake still beats Kendrick in terms of consumption. That's far from the end-all be-all. It's far from something that's even that important for that matter, but it is still noteworthy. I would not have guessed that The Weeknd would be surpassed by Travis in the United States, because obviously that's not the case globally, but that was true. Interesting. Top 10 U.S. songs. Again, the kind of country and folk presence stands out. Number 10 is Noah Kahan's Stick Season. Number 9 is I Remember Everything, the Zach Bryan Casey Musgraves duet. Number 8 is Birds of a Feather. Number 7 is Beautiful Things by Benson Boone. Number 6, Good Luck Babe, Chappell Roan. Number 5, Tommy Rickman's $1 Million Baby. Really cool. Love that he's here. Number 4 is I Had Some Help, the Post Malone Morgan Wallen duet or collab. Number 3 is Shabuzi's A Bar Song. Number 2, Kendrick's Not Like Us. Number 1, Espresso. So yeah, you can kind of see the difference in terms of U.S. consumption versus global consumption when you compare the two lists there. And again, that kind of continues with top 10 albums in the U.S. Number 10 is 1989 Taylor's version. Number 9 is Zach Bryan's self-titled. Number 8 is Morgan Wallen's The Dangerous double album. Number 7 is his SOS. Number 6, Hit Me Hard and Soft by Billy. Number 5, Rise and the Fall of a Midwest Princess from Chappell Roan. Of course, that's an album, as we know at this point, came out last year but did not blow up really at all, and then to the massive degree that it did until this year, so it makes sense that it makes the list. We have a number 4 is Noah Kahan's Stick Season. Number 3 is Short and Sweet. Number 2 is a different Morgan Wallen album, One Thing at a Time. And then number 1 is The Torture Poets Apartment by Taylor Swift. So that's all the big data we got there. Always find that interesting. Looking at my own lists, and before we do, a lot of feedback on how Spotify Wrap went for people this year. I think the AI podcast was a big dud. There was the controversy about what it said about One Direction, for example. The lack of getting just your top genres at all this year, I think, was a huge miss. Like, that's something that should always be provided, and some of the other stuff I don't think people really care about, that's for sure. Like, I don't really need the AI-generated description of my month based on my consumption. Like, when I went to Korea in October and listened to a lot of K-pop, my October was Hallyu Strut K-pop. Like, that's cool, but why don't you just tell me if K-pop was my number 2 or 3 genre for the year? That's more important to me. Unsurprising for myself, my top artist was Charlie XCX. Of course, I loved Brat, and I also loved the Brat remix album, so there was a ton to get into with that. My number 2 artist was Heady One, who released a new album this year. I went back to a lot of his catalog stuff towards the fall sometime, and then didn't expect him to make the list again for me, but he did. Number 3 was Tommy Rickman, because $1 Million Baby and also especially Devil Is a Lie, I just really replayed a lot, and of course he released an album. Number 4 was aespa, number 1 K-pop act for me this year. I just found a few of their songs, Whiplash and Hot Mess in particular, incredibly catchy, so I went back to them a lot. It makes sense. Number 5 for me is Fred again, who released an album. And also I was listening to his song 10 a lot because I used it in an Instagram Reels edit for one of my trips. So that, brings me back to the song a lot, and thus it kind of ratchets up the list. Similarly, my top song was Piece of Your Heart by Medusa. That's, the EDM banger from several years ago at this point. That's a song that I'm going to be using in an upcoming edit I've already planned, so I listened to that a lot, specific part of it a lot. So that was number 1 for me, beating out 2 and 3, Apple and 360 from Charlie. Then number 5 was Not Like Us, which I expected to be here. Number 4, kind of strangely, was Larger Than Life by Backstreet Boys, which is definitely a song I listen to a fair amount at the beginning of the year just because I was kind of stuck in the catchiness of it. I don't think it was really my number four most played song of the year. I don't know. Um, a bit perplexing, but I'm not too critical. But yeah, overall my consumption was 48,000 minutes, which I believe was down a little bit from last year. I think I was close to 60 last time. Either way, it says I'm top 5% of listeners worldwide. Listen to a lot of podcasts as well, so that's a big part of it. But yeah, Spotify Wrapped, I like it. I hope they get better. Let's do less AI next time. Stick to the good stuff. You don't have to create tons and tons of new features. I just want the data. But let me know, what you think of Spotify Wrapped? How would you feel about your own personal stats? Let me know. And for more music reviews and music discussion, subscribe. And I'll see you next time.